Pet Life Radio.
This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
Hello! You're listening to Animal Party on Pet Life Radio with Deb Wolfe. And we've got a special show. We've got Dr. Stanley Coren, professor of psychology at UBC, and, best-selling author of many dog books. We're going to talk about one of those books right now, right at the outset of the show. So, Dr. Coren, tell me about your new book.
Well, the book is called Gods, Ghosts, and Black Dogs. So it's about the mythology and folklore, tall tales, and that sort of thing about dogs. And it does include some spooky stuff. There are a few of the tales about demon dogs. Do you know, by the way, the demon dogs in the West, in Europe, are always black, right? But in Asia, the demon dogs are always white. Yes.
That's interesting, because I know white has some superstition in Africa too. Yep. White hair is considered bad, and white eyes, and all kinds of things on animals.
So anyway, but there are a lot of just plain fun stories in the book, and you get to hear a story about King Arthur's dog, Cavil. And there are some stories. It's a whole broad spectrum from a lot of different countries, and all the stories are chosen to be fun. And I also tell the story about how I got the story. For me, that's just as important as the tale itself is, how did I get this story? Who gave it to me? What was the content?
I think I saw you. It's a few years ago and it was on TV, but I think I saw you commenting on some strange bridge where dogs would throw themselves over it, and people were calling it haunted, but it turned out it was something else. Is that right? Is this in the book?
No, that one is not in the book, but that was an odd thing. Actually, it was the host of that.
It was a suicide dog bridge, but it turned out to be not that at all. It was some kind of parade below or something, and there was
mink.
Mink? Not suicide. It's called food. Opposite.
Mink have a very, very distinctive odor, and dogs are attracted to it. And this bridge was set up in such a way so that it had a fairly broad sort of stone wall going across the bridge, and the dogs couldn't see that, in fact, the stone wall ended with a drop. So they smell the mink, they go to jump over to see what's happening, and the next thing you know, you have a dead dog. So it was an odd thing. But terrible. People there were, they were calling it, the suicide bridge because of all these dogs which had harmed themselves by leaping over it.
So every once in a while, we get something horrible in the news about someone being busted for puppy mill or cruelty to animals, or just inhumane treatment, and they call them a hoarder a lot of times. Recently there was one in, I think it was Richmond, BC, and it was her second time being caught, and she runs what she calls a kennel, boarding and breeding, but it's really an awful place, and the animals are ill and sick, and it's all terrible. And every once in a while somebody like that is busted, and then there's this call to make new laws. I'm not sure why, because the laws are good. They're just not being enforced, or they're not able to be enforced on people like her. It's not like she's operating within the law. She's not. But I want to know, how do people know? I mean, if a breeder has a female dog, and like me, they take it to the vet before they get it pregnant, and they take it to the vet after, and all their dogs are vaccinated and, kept in good care and retired at the right age and started at the right age. A breeder could have several dogs being bred and be ethical, whereas somebody else could only be breeding one, but just overbreed it, breed it from too young, too old, mistreat it. So it's kind of hard for people to know, what is a situation they should report? Is it if it's a neighbor? Or if it's maybe they go to buy a puppy somewhere. Because sometimes I sell puppies to people and they say, you wouldn't believe the place we were at last week. It was awful, blah, blah, blah. And I think, well, report it, please. But how do they know where that line is? Because it's not, the person, breeds puppies for a living. That's not the distinction. There's a good way and a bad way, right? And it's hard for people to know the difference. So how can you help them know that if their neighbor has 3 or 4 dogs and a bunch of cats, it's okay, and maybe when it's not okay? Because the hoarders, you sometimes don't see all their animals, but I think you can smell it. That's what I think, right? I mean, what should neighbors think about, and customers and people out there?
Psychologists always say that the difference between something which is pathological and something which is not is just a matter of degree. So, I mean, if you take a drink now and then, that's okay. But if, you drink a bottle of scotch every day, then that's not okay. So,
or if the scotch interferes with your work or your family, right? Like it has to interfere with something.
That's right. It has to be in excess. Okay. And that's the sort of thing in terms of hoarders. I mean, if you have 2 or 3 dogs in the house and they're well kept, then that's not a problem. Okay. But if you have 23 dogs in the house, I mean, unless there's some special circumstance, that is apt to be a problem because clearly the standards of care are going to drop and that kind of thing. And the moment the dogs start to appear to be unhealthy, as though they're not being cared for, I mean, then you have to start worrying about it. I mean, we had a dog who came to one of our obedience classes, and this is the only dog that these people had. And, this dog was unsound because it was not being kept well. So, I mean, there are the cases, that one dog may be too much. So you really have to be very, very careful in assessing, is this individual keeping the dog well or not?
Well, and also sometimes an animal can have a chronic problem. Like I had a neighbor who was, letting a goat die, live out its old age, and it had problems. It had seen the vet. They'd done everything they could. Well, the goat limped around the property until the day it died, and that lasted like 4 years. Yep. And she was constantly called. The SPCA didn't come anymore because they knew her goat. But, so sometimes an animal doesn't look so good because it's not so, not a lot can be done. You can't report that. It's tricky, right? I think it's bad care and high numbers and filth, maybe an indicator. Like what else?
Oh yeah. You have to, the living conditions have to be reasonable and clean, and the animals have to be sheltered and they have to be fed and that kind of thing. I think, my own feeling is, if you are in doubt, talk to the person, okay? If they seem spooky, or if, you see the conditions and they're not well, then you go to something like the SPCA. But if not, I mean, if it's, an old goat, for example, then let it be.
Okay. So we were talking on the last show about dogs helping each other, and I have another example that I thought was just adorable because I have a golden retriever with her puppies, and I noticed she's nursing them fully, and they've just started to eat a little bit. They're a month old, but not really, just token eating. Mostly they're nursing. And I saw her, after feeding them, move herself into a different area and then gently close the gate. It could still be opened. There's no latch. But they don't know that because they're dumb. They're puppies. They're only a month old. So they see the gates closed and they sit on the other side whining for her. She opens it when she's good and ready. And I thought, if I'd done that when I was nursing, I would have had a better life. I'd just taken my mommy time, like this dog takes her mommy time. But it's pretty clever what they can do, how smart they can be with things like that.
Yeah, and if you have animals who live together in the same household and have formed a bond, then you can very often see these helping behaviors in just everyday occurrences. When I had my old flat-coated retriever, and at that time my former Nova Scotia duck-tolling retriever was just, in his puppy stage. He was about 8 or 9 months old. And the flat-coated retriever was a maniacal retrieving machine. I mean, he grabbed everything. And the toller was also a great retriever. And at one point in time, the dogs were playing with each other, and the toller had a retrieving toy, and it flipped out of his mouth and it went behind this very heavy chair, and he couldn't reach it. And the flatty was looking at this, and he was larger, and so he walked over to the chair, nudged it slightly, grabbed hold of the toy, and then just flipped to the toller. So, here's your toy, go play. So you do see these kinds of helping behaviors, which seems to show, I mean, it's very much like kids playing. Remember,
I see it with fetch sometimes, like the water dog will go swim for it and then drop it at the shore, and the land dog will pick it up and bring it to me with my boarders, with my Camp Good Dog boarders. Even though the water dog probably wants to hang on to it, he doesn't, and sometimes it's because he's submitting to the bigger dog standing on the shore, but sometimes it's a little dog he drops it for. Here, buddy, you take it the last leg. I'll go back in the water, and off he goes. It's pretty nice when they get along that well.
Yeah. And it has to do with that sort of cohesiveness of the pack, the family, whatever it is. And the better the relationships are among the dogs, then the more likely you are to see this kind of behavior.
Well, we're going to go to another break, and then we're going to come back. And I think we might have a little disagreement. I don't know, because I think I've heard you say on air before that you always recommend people get young puppies. And I'm going to make a plea for people to consider older rescue dogs, especially ex-breeding dogs. So we're going to talk about that. We might have a little bit of an argument, a gentle one, coming up after the break. Stay tuned to Animal Party on Pet Life Radio.
Put on a perfectly pawsome pet party. Having an awesome birthday or adoption day celebration for your four-legged friend? Or just want a fun excuse to throw a fun party with your friends from the dog park? Deck out your party with Molly and Bandit Pet Party accessories. Party products designed specifically for pets. There are wearables, including adjustable pet party hats, bow ties, and tutus. The photo prop kits include funny glasses and hats. The party supplies and decorations include coordinating table covers, party banners, cake decorations, and treat bowls, cups, and bags. Everything you need to create great memories and Instagram-worthy photos. They're available in 2 colorful themes, tropical and fireman. It's a dog's life. Celebrate it with Molly and Bandit Pet Party at mollyandbanditpetparty.com/petlife.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Hello! We're back on Animal Party Pet Life Radio with me, Deb Wolfe. And I live and work at Camp Good Dog, where we have loads of dogs coming and going. Been doing this a long, long time, training dogs. And I also breed dogs, and sometimes I place ex-breeding dogs. And so I've got Dr. Coren, the psychology professor, who knows a lot about dogs and people. And I find that when I place a dog like 5-year-old Scarlett, who's about to retire from breeding, golden retriever, I know she's going to make an amazing pet. I know she's trained to the house and kids and other animals, and she's loving and loves to be touched and been a great mom, and she loves cats, and they have a golden retriever, the people I'm giving her to, and they have horses. She likes horses. I mean, I know what they're getting. They know what they're getting. To me, it seems a great match. And I wouldn't recommend they go out and get a new puppy that they have to house train and stay up at night with if that's not what they're looking for. I think an ex-breeding dog's a good thing. So I know in the past, I think you've said that you prefer puppies.
Sure, I prefer puppies for the simple reason that my dogs are trained to be obedience dogs and competitors. So I want a dog who comes into my house and who I can train to do the kinds of things which is going to be his work for the rest of his life. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I have any objection to people adopting older dogs. It really depends on your circumstance. Let me give you an example. My parents always had schnauzers, standard schnauzers. They're
big
tough
ones.
little dogs.
The big ones? Yeah.
No, not the giant schnauzers.
The mini size.
The middle size, yep.
Okay.
But they're tough little dogs. I mean, they're just basically oversized terriers, and their puppyhood is, it's a bit of a struggle and that kind of thing. And when my parents began to get older, their current schnauzer had died, and I decided they needed a softer dog, and they shouldn't have a puppy because, it was getting hard for them, hard to move around and that kind of thing. So I ended up getting them a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, 7 years old, and had just retired from breeding. I mean, it was from a breeder.
Just a mush bucket. Kiss me, hug me, don't put me down.
That's right. But this was not, a breeding farm. This was a gal who had a breeding kennel, and she had maybe 3 or 4 dogs at a time, and was a conscientious breeder, and all her dogs were socialized and that kind of thing. So, Amy came into the house and became an instant child as far as my parents were concerned. So it really
Well, because I think sometimes people think if the dog isn't, a real baby with baby teeth, it won't bond to them. And I don't agree with that. I think these dogs, if they've had a hard life and then you give them security, they are so grateful. Even the rescue ones. I mean, my ex-breeders, they've had a lovely life, but they've had to share humans. And now they get their own humans. And that's very exciting for them. They just to have their own place, to be one of 2 instead of one of 4 is a big improvement, and partly the reason I want her to go is because it's very busy and bustling around here. Like you say, I only have a few dogs because when they get older, it's better for them to go to a calmer place, where she can just hang out on the couch all day like she wants, right?
Yeah. And those kinds of dogs make wonderful pets. I mean, it's the same thing that I teach a graduate course at Bergen University, and that's also the home of the American Assistance Dog Institute. And, they have these dogs which are being trained to be service dogs, hearing assistance dogs or handicap assistance dogs and that sort of thing. And some of these dogs flunk out for various and sundry reasons. And so now you've got a 2 or 3 year old dog who has just failed the service dog requirements, but they have been incredibly well socialized and that sort of thing. And those dogs are gems.
Because a fail at that is not a fail. Sometimes they fail because they're too affectionate with strangers. Like it doesn't mean he's a bad dog. He wouldn't even be in the program if he was a bad dog, and he wouldn't get that far in it. It may be something like, he breaks his concentration when food's really tempting. Well, okay, he'll make an amazing pet. He's just not good enough for the blind guy who can't afford to have the dog drifting his attention because he walked by a hot dog stand. So, these are the kinds of things, right? And I found some really good matches were made with ex-seeing eye dogs being placed because they didn't fully qualify for seeing eye dogs. They got almost all the way, and then they can be retrained for something else, like autism or hearing dog. So, it's not that they're a total fail. This is like a 98% dog. He's just not quite there, right?
That's right. And adopting adult dogs is sometimes it's much, much easier because, somebody else has done the hard work of socializing them and housebreaking them and that sort of thing. And so, you get a plug and play pet. But I remember at one point in time, I adopted an old Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. He was 9.5 years old. And the thing was, he arrived in my house and there was nothing to train him. He checked out the other 2 dogs in the house. He sort of saw what their routine was. And within a week, he was just one of the boys.
Yeah.
And he was a delight. Also, as you said, a mush bucket. But
well, and if you're dealing with an ex-breeding dog, the breeder should be doing things like what I do, which is you can take him for a day, you can take him for a walk, you can take him overnight, we can do a trial. He's always welcome back. I mean, if they're trying to get rid, watch out. That's probably something went wrong, health problem, did something wrong. You don't want, if the breeder can't handle this dog that it knows and loves, you steer clear. But if they're willing to, and this is my case, when they adopt Scarlet, I'm willing to give my vet full disclose anything, tell the people her full history. Like I said, I have nothing to hide. If I had something to hide, I wouldn't be doing that, right? If I just found out she had epilepsy or hip dysplasia or something, this could be, oh my goodness, expensive, and I'm getting rid of her. I wouldn't say, you know what? You can call my vet. I've given them the freedom to talk with you fully about her history. So you want to make sure you're not getting somebody else's discarded problem, for sure. But if you could spend time with the dog and see that it listens to you and fits with you, I mean, you do, I think, especially for older people who don't want to train a puppy and get up in the night. Yeah, rescuing is the best way to go. So we're going to go to one more break, and then we're going to come back and talk to Dr. Stan Coren one more time. Stay tuned on Animal Party Pet Life Radio.
What if you could protect the life of your cat with something so simple and affordable that you already use every day? Get ready for the evolution of kitty litter. It's Pretty Litter. Along with all the features you've come to expect from your kitty litter, Pretty Litter's patented and scientific formula will also monitor your cat's health and detect illnesses early while providing industry-leading odor control. 2 kitty litters, same cat, same price. But there's one important difference. Pretty Litter reacts to your cat's waste by detecting health issues simply by changing color. And the key is that Pretty Litter detects these issues before your cat shows symptoms of physical illness or pain, likely saving you major dollars in vet bills while protecting the health of your cat. What do you think, little guy? Ready to switch litter? Pretty Litter. Colorful insight into your cat's health.
Go to prettylittercats.com/cat101 or use coupon code CAT101 to get 20% off your first subscription order.
Let's Let's Talk Pets.
Let's Talk Pets.
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Hello! You're listening to Animal Party on Pet Life Radio. And I have a difficult topic I'm hoping we can deal with quickly, though, Dr. Coren. In the news, Paul Bernardo was coming up for parole. He's the Scarborough rapist. He's all kinds of things. When I was in 4th grade, we were told we weren't allowed to go to the parks or the forest. All field trips were canceled while they tried to catch him. And they didn't catch him till I was in college. He had an accomplice, Karla Hamolka. Now, Paul Bernardo's still in jail. He'll probably always be in jail. But Karla Hamolka, who did terrible things to people and girls in particular, including relatives, she was let go and allowed to become a vet tech with access to animals and drugs. And that's always not sat well with me. And I think as a psychology professor, you're the right person to ask about this. How can that even happen?
I don't know how it can happen, but there is a lot of data which shows that one of the markers for individuals who later go on to become, mass murderers and that kind of thing is animal abuse. And you find there was a study which was run who looked at 23 mass murders, and they found 4 major symptoms which were common among all of these mass murderers, and one of the most prominent was early animal abuse.
So it doesn't make sense to take someone who's committed those crimes and put them in a situation with vulnerable animals and drugs, does it?
No, I mean, I wouldn't do it. But I suppose, my clinical colleagues are always much more optimistic, and I'm sure that one of them would probably say, well, if she's doing good by the dogs, then maybe, in fact, she's recovering. That's another way of looking at it.
I guess so. We were talking about dogs helping each other. And a long, long time ago, I rescued a dog who had a big tumor in his neck and other things too. And at one point, he had a stroke in the middle of the night. He was a Roddy Cross. And he went blind overnight. And he was bumping into things. It was just terrible. And this dog, this blue heeler that didn't especially like him, I thought, until that day, she started to be his seeing eye dog, like what you're talking about. She would run outside and bark and try to show him the way, and he'd follow her bark. And it was just so kind. She could have chosen to body check him and do it in her usual rude way, but she didn't. She chose to do it in the most gentle, kind way. And I think sometimes dogs helping other dogs really shows us just what they're really like deep down. Have you got any other beautiful stories to share with us before we end in 1 or 2 minutes?
Yes. When I had my flat-coated retriever, he ended up dying way too young of cancer. But one of the symptoms of this cancer was that he got cold.
Shake.
Yeah, shiver and that sort of thing. And my toller at that point, Dancer, was incredibly fond of Odin, of the flatty. And Odin would sleep on this cedar chip-filled pillow next to my bed. And one day I looked down, and he was covered with a blanket. And I thought that was interesting. Where did he get the blanket? How did he get one?
That's so nice.
And then a couple of nights later, I found out how this was happening. That every evening, Dancer would go over to the pile of additional blankets, because I get chilly too, and he would grab one of them. And when Odin was lying on the pillow, he would drape the blanket over him.
That is so nice. That's just beautiful. Well, thank you, Dr. Coren. We've just finished up our second show. I hope to have you back someday in the future, and I hope people will run out and buy your latest book. Can you tell them the title one more time?
It's called Gods, Ghosts, and Black Dogs.
Right on. Okay, thank you very much. It was lovely as usual. Thank you so much for joining us today on Animal Party, Pet Life Radio. And welcome once again to the Spotify listeners. This is your second chance to hear me, and I'll be back soon with a new guest to wow you and your pets. Welcome to Animal Party, Pet Life Radio. Catch me again next week.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.